As men reclaiming our sovereignty, it is imperative that we have a toolbox filled with different angles, different perceptions, so that we're able to live a well-rounded, adapted, adjusted life and reach our full potential. Better men choosing to create and design your own narrative, to decide what story you begin to tell yourself internally, so that you can begin to shape your external environment. This is the Better Man channel, where it's all about creating an atmosphere for men to reclaim their sovereignty. My name is Jaron, a former guy who had no power, had surrendered my sovereignty, forfeited my rights as a man. But I've begun to explore, discover what it truly means to be a man and take ownership of my own life. Everything in our life derives from our narrative. Our actions or inactions, our values, our beliefs, our morals, our relationships, our careers, our goals, all derive from our narrative, that story that we're telling ourselves. The perception with which we choose to see life shapes our external environment. And many times we fail to realize that our perception, our ideals of what life is shaped when we are a kid, shaped by those that may have had our best interest at heart, but they might have been wrong. Our teachers, our family, our friends at that young age that influenced our perceptions, thus influencing our narrative and how we see life, thus shaping our morals, our beliefs, our directions, our ideals and ideologies of what life is composed of, was shaped largely at a young age. But as men beginning to understand that maybe our thoughts, our perceptions, our narratives are a little skewed and maybe off, we're realizing that in order to reclaim our sovereignty, in order to reclaim our power and chart our own course and direct our own lives, we've got to begin to take a look at what we've been telling ourselves. Because many of us get so laser focused on our narrative, and everything is in this narrowed, tunneled perception of how we see life. And in doing so, we limit ourselves, we constrain ourselves, and we remove the possibilities of seeing different angles. We're tunneled in on this one and only way. It's my way or the highway. I'm right, you're wrong. And we limit ourselves from adapting and adjusting to other possibilities because we're so focused on our narrative, the way that we see things. And we latch on to things that only fit our perception. And we kick out the things that are contradictory to how we see life. And in doing so, we are constraining ourselves, imprisoning ourselves, because we're not allowing ourselves to gain new knowledge, new understanding, new perceptions, new mental models that allow us to perceive different situations from different angles and place ourselves in the shoes of others and how they see it. We're so limited, and we have this confirmation bias that anything anyone else says only confirms that we're right. They're ignorant, they're stupid, this world is in chaos and going to hell because no one is adopting my mindset. And in doing so, we're leaning on that as a crutch, and that is very limiting. That is a negative place to be in, a very devastating and detrimental place to be in, because as you lean on something and that becomes your crutch, what happens when that's swiped from under you? The one perception that you've had, the one paradigm, the one narrative that has dictated your whole life, your whole course, is knocked from out under you. And many times this happens and we're left in a state of confusion, a state of chaos, because all that we have known is crushed and devoured. And we're like, how can this be? The one truth that I held so close and dear to my heart is swept from under me, and I just don't know what life means anymore. I was talking to a guy the other day on comments on a video, and he said, having different perceptions, different mental models with which to view different situations is much like surveying land. They use a triangulation process where they have three different angles to view one specific point that they're trying to survey, discover, explore, assess. Three different angles to assess that one point so that they get a more well-rounded, better, precise evaluation. In life, we want a narrative that's more precise so that we can get in the direction that we're trying to go faster and more clear. So the more angles and perceptions we have, the more clear and concise our direction becomes. And our narrative becomes this malleable, abstract situation that has this plastic nature to it. The plasticity of our narrative becomes adaptable, adjustable. We can tweak it with different angles, different views, so that our narrative is not so limited, but it offers us this wider range, this wider scope, where we're able to see all possibilities in this situation so that we assess it and evaluate it more precisely, not just with our narrow eyes, that may be wrong. So the more perceptions that we have, the more we can place into our toolbox of this narrative, the more able we are to gain more knowledge, be more adaptable, more adjustable to different situations. So when that crutch is swept out from under us, we have something else to lean on and we're not falling down, wondering why our life seems to be crushed. We have the ability to form a narrative that directs our life. The more perspectives and mental models that we place into this narrative, the wider our range is. If you're laser focused on one belief, one system, one narrative, when other things outside of that come against you, you're going to be left behind, because those that can triangulate and survey the land from different points have a wider scope with which to see all possibilities. Therefore, they have an advantage over those who are limited in on one perspective. Everything derives from our narrative. What are we telling ourselves? What are we focused on? The wider our scope, the more perceptions, the more angles we have, the wider our advantages are to overcome situations that come against us. The more narrow-minded we are, we're constraining ourselves. We're confining ourselves by not adapting, adjusting, tweaking this very malleable narrative that we've been given. As men reclaiming our sovereignty, it is imperative that we have a toolbox filled with different angles, different perceptions, so that we're able to live a well-rounded, adapted, adjusted life and reach our full potential and the capabilities that we've been given. I love you guys. You will hear from me next episode.